Every day on this channel, we go through what the president says on their personal account as well as the official president of the United States account without a political bias or narrative. I'm your host, Isaac, and let's get right into it. So starting with this post from the White House, President Trump just announced steps to ban large institutional investors from buying single-family homes, saying people live in homes, not corporations. And he says that I'm immediately taking steps to ban large institutional investors from buying more single-family homes, and I'll be calling on Congress to codify it. People live in homes, not corporations. And this was quoted by Scott Turner, who said President Trump is not afraid to take bold action to make housing more affordable for the American people. After years of inflation and piling on burdensome regulations by liberals, this administration is bringing the American dream of homeownership back into reach. And this was reposted by Trump. He also announced that the U.S. Department of Labor is committing historic investments to train workers in a wide variety of industries, including AI, telecommunication, and shipbuilding. As well as today, Secretary Wright joins Goldman Sachs to speak on the future of American energy and the recent U.S.-Venezuela energy deal announced by President Trump late last night. The United States wants to sell Venezuelan oil via the U.S. government, depositing proceeds into U.S.-controlled accounts to benefit Venezuelans, and they aim to restore the oil flow to U.S. refineries, enable U.S. firms to invest there. And Trump also highlighted how we have the highest stock market in the history of our country, which is great for people with 401ks. And that big, beautiful tax returns are coming this year thanks to the Working Families Tax Cuts Act. And that because of $18 trillion invested in the United States, America is back. And that's with the S&P hitting a new record and the Dow closing above $49,000. Also related to saving money, the Trump administration is now investigating Minnesota. And that investigation has resulted in 6,900 suspended borrowers, and it's given them the blueprint to pursue pandemic-era abuse across every state. But not only did Donald Trump make announcements about the economy and about banning investors buying up houses, Caroline Leavitt held a press conference at 11 a.m. today with Secretary Kennedy, in which they listed some of their many MAHA victories in one year. All this with the goal of making people healthy again and reducing the cost of a good diet. And so to do this, they released new guidelines aiming to revolutionize the nation's food culture and make America healthy again. Because Secretary Kennedy said, my message is clear, eat real food. In addition to their new exhaustive review of vaccine standards for children, they announced this new food pyramid aiming to put real food back at the center of health. Now, on a more dire note, today, ICE officers in Minneapolis were conducting targeted operations when rioters began blocking ICE officers, and one of these violent rioters weaponized her vehicle attempting to run over our law enforcement in an attempt to kill them. And an ICE officer, fearing for the lives of his fellow law enforcement and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. He used his training and saved his own life and that of his fellow officers. This is a direct consequence of constant attacks and demonization of our officers by sanctuary politicians who feel and encourage rampant assaults on our law enforcement. These men and women who are simply enforcing the law on the books are facing 1,300% increases in assaults against them and an 8,000 increase in death threats. And Trump reposted that. And this was on the tail end of the largest DHS operation ever that was happening in Minnesota. And this, according to Secretary Kristi Noem, has caused the DHS to arrest more than 1,500 crooks and creeps, murderers, rapists, PDF files, and gang members, saying we'll continue to fulfill President Trump's promise to make America safe again. Speaking of making America safe again, let's talk about Venezuela. Donald Trump says he's pleased to announce that the interim authorities in Venezuela will be turning over between 30 and 50 million barrels of high-quality sanctioned oil to the United States of America, saying this oil will be sold at its market price and that money will be controlled by me as the President of the United States of America to ensure it is to benefit the people of Venezuela and the United States. I have asked Energy Secretary Chris Wright to execute this plan immediately. It will be taken by storage ships and brought directly to unloading docks in the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And this was reposted by the White House. Now, according to Trump, Democrats have switched up their stance on Maduro and on Venezuela. He quoted Senator Dick Durbin, who a while ago said, "We can't allow this president," regarding Trump, "to stop us from delivering on our promise to help the people rebuild their country." But now he says, "I disagree with President Trump's use of U.S. military forces without congressional approval and worry deeply about this admin's follow-through on foreign policy interventions." Additionally, he quoted Amy Klobuchar, who back then said, "I have of course supported bringing in the new president and delegitimizing the Maduro government. but now says, "I've strongly opposed sending American forces into harm's way in Venezuela without authorization from Congress. Wars for regime change can lead to unintended consequences." Same thing with Elizabeth Warren, who called Maduro a dictator and a crook, saying the United States should lead the international community in addressing Venezuela's humanitarian crisis and supporting regional efforts to negotiate a political transition. But now she says the American people voted for lower costs, not for Trump's dangerous military adventurism overseas that won't make the American people safer. Not only did he call out Democrats, he also called out NATO, emphasizing how prior to him, NATO was only paying 2% of their GDP and most weren't paying their bills. And he also said, "We'll always be there for NATO, even if they won't be there for us. The only nation that China and Russia fear and respect is a Donald J. Trump rebuilt USA." And today, Secretary Kristi Noem from the DHS highlighted 2 pre-dawn operations that the Coast Guard conducted back-to-back meticulously. It was coordinated against 2 Ghost Fleet tanker ships, one in the North Atlantic Sea and the other one in international waters near the Caribbean. And here's a video of that taking place. You can see the camera right here. It's about 3 minutes. You can see the people right here. There's a helicopter. All right. And before we finish up, here are some Trump endorsements. John Hagerbog, as well as Andrew Davis to serve as judge on the United States District Court, and the nomination of Chris Wolf to serve as judge on the United States District Court for Texas as well. And just a few more, you got John Shepard of Arkansas and Anna St. John from Louisiana. And finally, Donald Trump reposted this from JD Vance, who said, "Happy birthday to my darling Usha, who turns 40 today," as well as patriotic lo-fi victory beats, which went on for 16 hours straight. And in this stream, it just shows all of Trump's accomplishments. He also reposted this from Rapid Response 47, which encourages everybody to go to freedom250.org to find out what is happening nationwide for America's 250th birthday celebration. Okay, and so that was everything the president spoke about today. Huge development with housing. Donald Trump has long talked about getting BlackRock out of housing, so that's crazy. As well as the Venezuelan oil, us taking in 30 to 50 million barrels, which I think is like $5 billion of oil. We also saw some new guidelines in vaccines and as well as food with the HHS, as well as some of Trump's endorsements. And we're wishing Usha Vance a happy 40th birthday. That's everything from me today. If you guys want to support this channel, consider subscribing. I'm going to keep bringing you guys better content as the weeks go on.